Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Carl's Driven Life. Today, I have the distinct pleasure of interviewing Emilio Joubert.
Yep.
And Emilio is a student at Georgetown University. And when we actually, at some point, I'm going to come back here and take a picture of what I just saw, because the building, what is that building?
That's Healy Hall. That's like our main building, like on all of our shirts.
Yeah, it is really old and beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
And so, yeah, it's pretty neat. So, Emilio, we actually met, was a rider in the car, and was just so intrigued by my story about YouTube and everything that we got to talking, and ended up, he is a very interesting guy. And so welcome to the show, Emilio.
Super exciting.
Yeah.
Ever since we started talking about it, I've been super excited about doing this, because I love stuff like this.
This is awesome. We had a couple of hiccups with me being a little bit sick last week, but we finally got to get this going and ready to go now.
Right.
Some scheduling issues, but we are good to go. So, Emilio, tell me about you. Tell me about where you came from, how you got where you are, how you ended up in DC. You know, kind of start from the beginning, and let's see what you got.
Sure. So I was telling you before, I have a pretty crazy life story. So I was born in a city called Haverhill, Massachusetts, which is very far north in Massachusetts. It's like almost New Hampshire.
Oh, wow.
And it's like half Latino and half like Italian immigrant. It's a very interesting city. And I was born to a Puerto Rican father and an Italian mother, so a good combination of both cultures in the city.
Interesting.
And from there, I've like moved to a bunch of different places, which I'll be talking about probably later on as we're talking.
Sure.
And I ended up in a city called Lawrence.
Okay.
Lawrence, interesting city because it's one of the poorest cities in Massachusetts, and it has the largest population, I think, of immigrants in the state as well. It's primarily Dominican immigrants, as well as some Haitian immigrants. And I grew up there, and I went to high school there.
Okay.
And I went to a high school called Cristo Rey, Notre Dame Cristo Rey High School, where I worked 1 to 2 days a week to help pay off my tuition. Like, that was a part of the school system. And so because it was Catholic and it's also a Jesuit school system, I ended up hearing about Georgetown.
Okay.
And so as a result of, you know, to us, to Cristo Rey, it's like the Harvard.
Okay.
And so it's in Notre Dame, like the University of Notre Dame.
Right.
And so I applied in my senior year, and I was lucky enough to get in. Thank goodness, because it's been probably the best decision of my life to attend here. I go here on a full scholarship, which is... So
you got a full ride to Georgetown?
Yeah, so Georgetown actually gives me money to attend.
Oh, wow.
So that I can pay off my books and stuff like that.
So that's interesting, because I don't think that those kinds of scholarships, there's not very many of those out there, are there?
Well, I mean, without getting too technical about it, it's actually kind of interesting. So Georgetown is one of the, it's like a list of like 50 schools, I think, that meet on 100% of your need.
Wow.
So for instance, my family's very poor. My dad, at least I don't think he does, has any like tangible income besides like state benefits.
Right.
And so what ends up happening as a result of that is Georgetown says, okay, your estimated contribution is 0, which means we'll front all of the $72,000.
Wow.
In addition to an extra $4,000 to help you pay off, you know, your food or your tuition or whatever else that you might be accumulating, like as a student at Georgetown.
So what are you, what were some of the struggles? You said you had a difficult life, kind of give me an idea, because I did too. I think some of the things you're going to say are probably a lot of the things that I went through as well. So, yeah, share that with us.
Yeah, so things were pretty tough. For a long time, money, we didn't know where it was necessarily going to come from. My dad had a hard time finding stable employment. And my mom, even though she had stable employment, like, it wasn't gainful employment. And so we weren't really able to, like, move ourselves up the social ladder. And what ended up happening as a result of that was when my mom got diagnosed with cancer, when I think I was either 7 or 8.
Right.
A lot of things got put on halt because my dad had found a job. He had actually started a car wash, but that was in 2008. And as we all know, with what happened in the economy in 2008, everything fell apart. And so we lost the car wash. My mom couldn't work as much as she used to. She was really sick. And so what ended up happening is we had to move in with my grandparents. And after moving in with my grandparents, things kind of started to fall apart because my dad's mental health came apart too. And he ended up getting kicked out, and so he took us with him.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, we ended up being homeless for a month or a month and a half. I can't remember. My memory's not too good at that time because I was so young.
Sure.
But that was definitely one of the difficulties. And then as time went on, that's when I moved into Lawrence. because after we were homeless and we moved into like a motel for like a little bit, and then we found a place in Lawrence, and I started going to high school. What happened was my mom passed away a couple of years after we moved into Lawrence from cancer.
Oh wow.
Yeah, she had beaten it 3 times at that point, so there's only you can only run away from stage 4 breast cancer for so long.
Sure.
That eventually caught up with her. But luckily I did find Notre Dame Cristo Rey, and I found a lot of people that believed in me. And so as a result of that belief in me, I feel like I was able to succeed. So I ended up having a really bad freshman year, because that's when I had to leave my dad's house. That's when my mom passed away. That's when everything, like I said, felt like it was going really, really bad, and I was just living with my dad. And so things were not good for me. But luckily, like I said, I stuck it through, and people at Notre Dame really got me through a lot. And so as a result of that, I'm at Georgetown now.
Wow.
Which is a big deal.
That is a big deal, and what an interesting story to have overcome all of those challenges and have a full ride at Georgetown to pursue your career. Now, something, you know, that I found interesting that I discovered is you have been on a TED stage and did a talk. So tell me a little bit about that. I mean, you know, it's like this part of your life is you're definitely making up for all the horrible things that have happened to you with all the really amazing things that are going on. So tell me about your TED talk. What did you do there?
Yeah, so a lot of what I just said like a couple seconds ago was like, so that was the introduction to my TED talk. And then from there I started to talk about the importance of mentorship and education and changing somebody's life.
Right.
Because like I said, Cristo Rey helped me get through so much. And so as a result of the mentorship and all the people who cared about me in my high school, I was able to succeed. And so what I talked about was to look to those people and realize that those are your real world heroes. Those, like, you know, we spend so much time watching Spider-Man, watching Superman, all of these superheroes on the big stage, that we forget that a lot of the times in front of us are people who are superheroes in their own right. So I credited my grandma, my mom when she was still alive, Sister Mary Alice, who helped lead my school, a lot of people who helped lead Georgetown now. I would consider my heroes as well. And so I talk about how it's not too late for you to also be somebody else's hero.
Wow.
That you can do that for somebody else, and it's never too late to do that, and it's also never too early. For Georgetown students, we go to many people's dream school.
Sure.
I remember being like, I want to go to Georgetown so bad. And I mean, that's a huge accomplishment, getting into such a wonderful school.
Right. And
I feel like people are always in a position where they have knowledge and they can help somebody else out. So it's all about being a mentor for somebody else and helping change somebody else's life.
Huh.
Making the most amount of impact possible.
That is, you know, and that's a really neat story. And you know, your everyday heroes. That is something I hadn't thought about. You know, that you know, people make the world go round, and for those people that have been in the car and heard my story, you know, I quit my real job a couple of months ago to just do this full time, simply because I enjoy talking to people so much and have the opportunity to, you know, possibly affect positive change in their lives. And you know, a lot of people have a deep respect for, I mean, it was not an easy decision to make like that, but I can imagine. But you know, I'm doing what I love, and I really am having fun, and you know, meeting such interesting people like you. Guys, we're about to drive by National Cathedral. The 41st President, George Bush, is in the United States Capitol, and on Wednesday he will be here at National Cathedral for his service, for the funeral service. And so they have probably got everybody blocked off. A lot of activity going on. Yeah, and they've got cameras and tents and everything all set up for the drama that is going to be the funeral. So an interesting week here in Washington, D.C. So Emilio, kind of give me an idea. You know, you set up the foundation to get you where you are now. What are you doing at Georgetown? What have you accomplished there? You know, obviously getting on the TED stage is not something easy, because there's a lot of students at Georgetown I'm sure would have loved to do that. So you can kind of cover that. You know, give me an idea of what you got going on now at school. Sure.
So I actually have a really interesting major spread that makes a lot of people like ask me. There's a question that I always get is like, what are you planning on doing with that? So I'm an Italian major with minors in Spanish and maybe Portuguese, if it can work out, and I'm taking French next semester. So like I said, the question that people always ask me is, what are you going to be doing with that? And my answer to that is, I'm going to be working at Instagram. So I had
tell us about that. Yeah.
So I had the opportunity for two summers now to work for Instagram's partnerships team. And essentially what that meant was, like, I was able to meet some celebrities on the platform. I was able to get a better understanding of what kind of media works on Instagram, what doesn't work. and the best way to strategize when it comes to that. So it's super interesting. It's work that I didn't necessarily know that I was into, but I grew up watching YouTube. I actually kind of have a YouTube channel that is like an archaic piece of media because it's just videos from back in the day before we had capture cards, just me playing video games, recording it, talking over it. But media has always been a big part of my life, and so it's super interesting now that I've been able to sign to work for Instagram. I'm really excited about that.
That is really neat. I mean, so kind of give me an idea what you did at Instagram. I mean, you know, with school and who's the famous people that you met? That sounds fun.
Sure. Yeah. So I worked in first Menlo Park, which is where the headquarters of Instagram are / Facebook, and then I worked in San Francisco, which is like where the new office is. This last summer was when I worked for there, and that was really cool. Some of the celebrities that I've gotten the chance to meet. Let's see. I've had the chance to meet Cold Game Kev, which was pretty cool. He's the guy who like feeds the deer on camera.
Oh, okay.
Like everybody eats that guy. A lot of, I think, smaller, like not smaller. I guess it depends on what age group you are. So people who like are not my age or your age group, like 15 to 16 to 17-year-old girls, like Jordan Jones. A lot of people love people like Jordan Jones.
Right.
T2IL Tila. I've had the chance to talk to Amanda Cerny, which was really cool. I'm sure that there are some others that I think I actually got to meet Rebecca Black, if I remember correctly, which was really cool. But off the top of my head, those are the main people that I can think of. And it was just such a humbling experience because you realize that they're really just people. You know, you see them on the screen and they look so famous and they have all these beautiful pictures, but you know, when they're not wearing the makeup and they're just having a conversation about the best way to do it. They're just like you and me. Exactly, yeah. They're just like you and me. And so it's super interesting to have the opportunity to talk to these people and see that, you know, at the end of the day, everybody's really just equal to everybody. So I think that was a great experience for me. So just being able to see it equalized. Yeah,
that is, and you know, I've always told people I'm not somebody who has this anxiety when I meet someone famous or something like that. Right. I'm just like, well, you know, hello, Mr. President, how are you?
Right.
You know, I don't have that kind of fear. You know, when I see someone, and actually for that very reason, because they're people just like us.
Right, exactly.
So your languages, and how is that going to work into Instagram, and how are you going to turn that into a career?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. I think the main way that I was helpful in terms of this summer was that I was just able to consume such a wide breadth of content that not everybody else on the team was able to do, or at least consolidated into one person.
Right.
So that ended up being helpful because sadly I can't talk about my project too much just because it's kind of under wraps.
Sure.
But I was able to watch a lot of content from places like Italy, Brazil, Spain, all across Latin America, and Europe. And I was able, because you know I speak 3 of the major languages in Europe, and then 4th, you know, Portuguese in both Brazil and Portugal. So it was very helpful to the team for me to be able to take all of the notes on everything that I was watching and be like, this is what people are doing in different parts of the world. This is what's working. This isn't what's working.
Wow. Yeah, that's really neat. You know, you don't think about that sometimes because we just always, everything is in English and
right, exactly.
Yeah, that definitely gives you an in, and then I think the next thing you do is definitely work for the State Department or something. You know?
Everybody says that. Everybody says to work for the State Department. I don't know any critical languages.
Yeah.
I don't speak like Korean or something.
Right.
I would love to learn though. Yeah. I really do like learning languages.
That's definitely a talent. So, you know, I always ask this, you know, what do you want to be when you grow up? Where do you see yourself, you know, in the next 5 to 10 years with this? You know, what is your big goal?
Yeah, so even though I'm working in media right now, I would say that my passion is actually in between both tech and education. After my freshman year, I didn't work for Instagram or Facebook. I actually worked for the Department of Education.
Okay.
And that was like a lifelong goal for me that I had gotten after my freshman year. I was super excited about that. But I decided not to do it because it's very hard because it's an unpaid internship. Facebook was paid, so it was very difficult for me to say no, especially as an independent student. I pay for all of my living expenses outside of Georgetown helping me with my tuition.
Right.
It's like my food I help pay for, and over the summers I move myself and all of that. So it's difficult for me to just say yes to an unpaid internship.
Absolutely.
But I think that in the long run, the thing that I want to be is I want to start a school system.
Okay.
Because I went to a Montessori middle school, Montessori charter middle school, which was really interesting. And then I went to Cristo Rey School, which is very revolutionary in terms of giving students from a low economic background the chance to work 1 to 2 days a week to help pay off tuition.
Okay.
And so I would like to find somewhere in between those kind of ideas and helping involve tech. I know that the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative is kind of doing a lot of work like this right now. But my dream would be to do something along those lines. So I don't know if it's be a superintendent or to just be the CEO of a school startup or something along those lines.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. You know, I learned about charter schools a while back with a writer that I had that I picked up at a charter school, and just because I don't have kids, you know, I'd not really ever known what it was, and so that may be a way for you to kind of jump into the education background, because I know that they, you know, people are always looking for a way to get one into their community.
Oh, definitely.
And so, so your majors at Georgetown are language, and
Yes.
so when you graduate?
I'm graduating July.
Okay.
In July.
So
yeah.
this is, you'll be done and gone and
Can't believe it.
at Instagram.
In LA.
In LA.
Yeah, I'm getting moving to LA.
That
Very
is,
excited about
yeah,
that.
that's
the
so, that is, yeah, get ready because the traffic is worse out there, Emilio.
Oh, I've heard. I'm trying my hardest to move very close to my office so that I can just bike.
Yeah, it's, I hear nightmare stories of that, and they don't have a good public transportation system like we do. So
I'm a little nervous.
Yeah, you'll make it. Well, that's awesome. So, you know, give me an idea. Tell me some of the, like, what's the craziest thing you've ever done? Just Looney Tune, off the cuff, fun, wild. What's the craziest thing you've ever done so far?
The craziest thing. So I actually think that it has a lot to do with how I pursued my job opportunity to work at Instagram. So I was an RA my sophomore year of high school, and I had heard that I got an interview at Instagram, and I was like, oh, cool, this is like super duper awesome. I'm excited. And so I told my boss, I was like, hey, I'm going to be in San Francisco during this time. I'm not going to be able to attend a training probably. But the thing is, I had signed a contract that said that it was mandatory for me to attend the training. And she was like, oh, at first she said that it was okay, or at least it seemed like she said that it was okay. And that I just had to let her know when my flight was. Well, when I told them when my flight was, she got kind of mad and like tagged her boss on everything and like that. And so I had to make the decision, was I going to stay and potentially lose my job as an RA, which meant that I could become potentially homeless at Georgetown,
right? Or
do I pursue this opportunity to go get a job in San Francisco and potentially secure job security for me?
That's a tough decision.
And I sat there for like 2 days, and I was like, I'm not sure what decision I'm going to make. And then eventually I sent her the email. I was like, I'm going to do this interview anyway. We'll figure out how to handle my situation afterwards. And so what ended up happening was, so I took my flight to LA. I ended up having a layover. And so I was like, you know, usually layovers are just fine, right? There's no problems with it. This was like the one day during the drought in California that there was a rainstorm in San Francisco. And so what happened was I landed in LA, and I'm like, all right, cool, super excited for my chance to do this interview. And all of a sudden, my flight is, you know, it's late, it's delayed by an hour, it's delayed by 2 hours. All of a sudden, it's 3 hours later and it's delayed. I'm like, this is taking kind of a long time. Eventually, it gets canceled.
Oh my gosh.
And my interview is the next day at 8 a.m. And right now it's 6 p.m. in LA. And so I have no idea what to do. And so I go to the front desk and I'm like, yo, like, I need to get these new tickets or something. I don't know what's going on. A woman hears me being behind me, and, you know, she's talking about being from Massachusetts, so we connect over that. She's like, have you ever heard of Megabus? And I'm like, oh my God, you're a genius. And so I literally pull up my phone. I run downstairs to where you get your luggage.
Right.
And I tell them, I'm like, get my luggage. I need it ASAP, because the nearest place to go to get my bus is at Union Station in LA, which is like an hour away. And so they're taking forever to get my luggage. It's like 6:30. I bought my ticket already, 6:45. And I can't push it any further because it's like 6:45 and I need to get to my bus, which is in Union Station, like I said. And so all of a sudden, right as I'm about to walk out, I tell them, I'm like, just mail me my luggage. Like, I don't need my luggage anymore. Just mail me my luggage. I need to get to this interview.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I'm running out, and all of a sudden I turn behind me to say thank you to the woman who is going to mail it. And then my bags fall out. And so I'm like, yes. And so I run to go get my luggage, and then I run to my Uber, and all I know is this guy's blasting The Believer by Lenny Kravitz. And I'm like, I have under an hour to get to Union Station. Can we do it? And he's like, probably. And so we speed. I'm pretty sure he got a ticket at some point during that time, but I made it to Union Station with 5 minutes to spare.
Wow.
And so I took the bus from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. to get to San Francisco. And when I arrived, it was a light drizzle. The light drizzle is what canceled my flight. But during that time, I ended up befriending an Iranian family, a Brazilian family, because I speak Portuguese,
right?
And also a couple of French guys, Alexis and Vincent, who studied at Stanford, who let me stay with them during those 3 hours in between my flight.
Really?
Yeah, they gave me cereal and everything like that. And so when I landed, I had told Instagram, I was like, I'm probably not going to be able to make it to this interview, just so that you guys know. And so they were like, oh, cool, like we can do a video interview and stuff like that. And I was in my head, I was like, no way, like I'm gonna make it.
Yeah.
And so when I made it, like the recruiter was like, what the hell? Like,
yeah.
How did you make it here? And so that was probably the coolest thing that I've ever done, just because it was like, I made it, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Like, you made it happen.
Oh my God, it was miserable. I was the only person that wasn't dressed up in anything nice. I was wearing like a sweatshirt that barely fit me. I was wearing a pair of jeans that were definitely dirty. I was like super hungry, and I was one of the 4 people out of the like 500 that applied that got the job.
Wow.
So
you know, the can-do attitude, the do whatever it takes to make things happen, that's really going to get you really, really far in life. You know, the craziest story I probably have had, I almost missed my, well, I did miss the bus back to the airline, but in Barcelona, I was on a cruise with a group of business people, and missed the morning bus back to the flight, and like I did the same thing to the taxi driver. I'm like, I'm gonna miss the airplane. Gotta go. You know, I had to speak any Spanish. I'm in Barcelona, and I'm just like, Aeropuerto. You know, I was just trying so hard. Just he's like, oh, okay, and I said, andale, you know, and that's all I can remember to say. And he's like, I get it. And so that was really crazy. And you know, the can-do attitude, I'll never forget this. You know, our area where I live out in Prince George's County is served by multiple transit agencies. And I had a busser that applied to the restaurant that I managed. And he showed up like 30 minutes early for his interview. Oh, wow. And I said, well, you're here early, you know, that's great. He said, well, I walked from my house to get here. And I said, oh, you must live right around the corner. He says, no, I'm, you know, several miles away. But, you know, I wanted to see, worst comes to worst, if the bus is late or I can't get a ride or whatever, you know, I wanted to see how long it would take me to get to work.
Oh, wow, that's a good character trait.
Yeah. And I sat there and I'm like, do you have any siblings or, you know, just some friends that, you know, you might could bring in? Because, you know, typically people that have that kind of attitude surround themselves with the other can-do people. And so, wow, that is a pretty dang amazing story.
Oh my God, I almost cried when I made it.
Oh, I'm sure.
No,
I mean, that is a pretty. I mean, yeah, I'm sure that they were like, wow, you really wanted to get to this interview. You almost lost your job. You know, you missed the flight. But it just goes to show. You know, I think I told you when you guys were riding that, you know, kind of my motto in life is, you know, today I'm just going to be nice to people. Right. And you never meet a stranger, do you?
No. I try to be friends with everybody.
Yeah, you talk to people. That's the same thing. I'm like, hey, how are you? And I know that I was with a bunch of my friends one day at a restaurant. I forget, it was Bonefish Grill actually. And this lady came in and sat by herself, and I sat there for 10 minutes, and I'm like, you know what? Hey guys, I'm gonna go sit with her because she's eating by herself. Nice. Yeah. You know. And so I said, I just noticed that you're eating by yourself. Would you mind if I join you and we can have some fun conversation? She said, of course, I would love, you know. And that's very forward. And but we ended up having a great conversation. And you know, I was with my friends. I don't want you to have to eat alone. And so it's fun to do that kind of stuff because it's like the guys that took care of you for 3 hours and gave you cereal.
They just help me out. You know what I mean?
You never know who you're going to meet and how you're going to be able to connect. And you know, the lady from Massachusetts just happened to talk about the bus, and then you know, you're like, I've got to get.
It's like completely lucky situation, just like everything worked out all at once.
Yeah, you know that is so. It was meant to be. That is a pretty cool story. So. So tell me a little bit about, you know, let's drop into personal life. You know, what do you like to do? What are some of the fun activities? You know, how about some of the interesting people that you've met along the way that have really inspired you or motivated you, and maybe how they were able to assist you in your life other than telling you about the megabus. So
yeah. So in terms of things that I like doing, I work out all the time. So I actually am training right now I used to compete in powerlifting when I was younger. Okay. And weightlifting, I'm learning how to do that, and also CrossFit. So I spend 5 to 6 days a week in the gym, like 3 to 4 hours a day, working out. So I work out twice a day. I like count my calories and like do all my meal stuff and all of that. So, but I think that a lot of like what I talked about growing up is a lot of why I'm so dedicated with it. Because one thing that I learned from that was that work ethic beats everything else. The people who are talented will do great, but the people who are talented and who put in the work will do amazing. And the people who aren't necessarily talented but work harder, they might be able to succeed more because they know what it's like to struggle. And so I feel like I'm somewhere in between all three of those. I'm not exactly sure whether I'm a talented individual when it comes to all of this stuff, but I've fallen in love with working out to the extent that I have. And so I try to spend as much hours in the gym as possible, as long as I like recover and I'm healthy. Don't worry,
sure,
like, dude, that's fine. But I also do like having fun. Like I play video games all the time with my friends. I live in a house. You actually saw me walk into my house really quickly with a group of some of my best friends who I've known for most of my time during college. And I mean, one of my best friends, his name's David. His family is from Colombia, but he grew up in Florida. And so he's also in the Georgetown Scholarship Program. He's here on a full ride as well. And so I've had the opportunity to meet so many amazing people that have stories that aren't exactly like mine, but are similar to mine. But I've also befriended people that are completely different from myself. My gym partner, she's not really affluent, but she's like upper middle class. Her dad like was a general in the military, super cool guy. And you know, we go to the gym every single morning and talk through like everything that's going on in our lives. And you know, even though she comes from a very different background from me, we're still able to connect and get to know each other so well. And so I'd say that's one of the greatest parts about not just Georgetown.
Sorry guys, we had a little bit of a video snafu there. Carl forgot to turn on the do not disturb on his phone, and so we got a phone call right there really quick. So you were talking about the gym, so keep on with that.
So essentially what I was saying was my gym partner, who's like dad is a general, or was like a general in the military. She comes from like a more upper middle class background. We're still able to connect regardless of the fact that our backgrounds are completely different.
Right.
And that's something that I've tried to really live throughout my life, is that, you know, no matter how different somebody else is to me, no matter how different an opinion they hold from me, I think that we can always find common ground. And I think that if I find that I think I'm right about something and they think they're right about something, that we can find an in-between that ends up being actually correct.
Nice.
And so I think that the most beautiful part about not just Georgetown, not just working in San Francisco or working with the Department of Education, but life in general, is that there's so much to learn. And that if anybody ever tells you that they know everything about something, they couldn't be more wrong. I think that that's one of the hardest mindsets to adopt. I think that we just always need to humble ourselves and understand that there's more to learn always.
Yeah.
So I'd say that my favorite part about life really is learning.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I would say that when it comes to the passion, I think that's why I fell in love with working out so much, is because every single time I come in, I can always hit a better number. I could have always moved my leg a different way. I could have always cued myself differently. And so I'm always learning more about myself and more about how to be better as a person, as a human being, when I'm working on improving myself.
Wow.
And so that's why one of my key things that I always tell myself is work ethic. And I mentioned this earlier, like I feel like I can work so hard, like I'm so dedicated. And I don't want to talk too much about working out because it's obnoxious when people do it. But this morning I had like sprints, and I had like 6 sets of sprints at like 95% of my like 1 mile like pace, my record 1 mile pace. And by like set 4, I was like, I want to quit. Like I just wanted to like stop and like not keep doing it. But I just kept going anyway, because I was like, well, I can stop now and be comfortable and drink my water and feel good after 10 minutes. This is like quoting one of my favorite athletes. Or, you know, I could keep going, do these extra 2 sets, and after 30 minutes I feel good, but the reward that I'm going to reap from it is going to be worth it. And so that's kind of the mindset.
Persistence and reward.
Exactly. It's so hard,
and dedication. Yeah. It's the self-motivation and the drive that you have to do that is hard, because it is easy, you know, with me being self-employed now and only driving Uber. You know, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not going to get a paycheck if I don't go do this.
Right, exactly.
It's not like it's going to just all of a sudden show up in my bank account like it used to. And so, yeah, you've really got to have that dedication and drive to make sure that you're doing it. So what is the first thing you do in the morning when you wake up?
Yeah, so I get up at 5 or 5:30 most mornings, and I kind of just sit in bed for a little bit. And that sounds really lazy, but a lot of the time I'm just thinking through what I'm going to be doing for the day. So like I check what my workout is because I follow a program. I strategize like what it's going to look like, and then I just kind of think through a lot of what's going on in my head. If there's anything that's concerning me, I'll really work it through. And then afterwards, once I stop being lazy, I get up and make myself a bowl of oatmeal, because oatmeal is delicious.
Right.
And then I go for my workout at 6 or 6:30.
So what's the last thing you do before you go to bed at night?
Oof. Put on a song. I like sleeping to music. I don't know how many people do. Some people have told me that's kind of weird, but I have like 7 or 8 sleep playlists that I sleep to depending on like my mood. Recently it's been a very good mood, so I've been listening to a lot of happier sleep music, but definitely listen to music. That's what I spend a lot of my time doing, as well as listening to music.
Interesting. Well, that is really cool, Emilio. Well, I'll tell you, that's an amazing story of achievement, you know, dedication, and I can't wait to see where this Instagram life is going to take you. We're going to have a off-camera conversation about some tips for my Instagram, And so, you know, I'm sure that most of the people that are going to watch this video have Instagram. What would you tell them? What would you tell them to, you know, like the number 1 and number 2 things to do to make your Instagram more attention getting?
Oh, video.
It's just video.
I don't even need to give more tips. That's
okay.
That's the number 1 tip is video.
Yeah.
Like I was telling you, people, they don't really like reading.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you can get the content audio, like why would you read it? It's faster,
exactly.
It's easier to digest, it's more entertaining, especially if the person's a good speaker. So use more video and post. Actually, I do have another one. Post consistently and post frequently.
Okay.
Even though it seems like you might be annoying people and you might lose some followers at first, the more you post, the higher your chances are of succeeding.
Okay.
It's
nice.
just like a sample size thing.
All right. Well, Emilio, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, of course.
So guys, subscribe to the channel, Carl's Driven Life on YouTube, Carl's Driven Life on Instagram. The Facebook page is kind of lame. I haven't really worked on it that much, but also on Twitter, Carl's Driven Life. And check everything out. Emilio, if they want to follow you or check you out, where can they find out more information about you?
It's actually really easy. Just look me up on Facebook or Instagram. So Emilio, EMILIO RJOUBERT.
Okay.
That's my handle both on Instagram and on Facebook.
Nice. So guys, we'll have to follow his Instagram career. How about the fact that we've got somebody who's has worked there and gonna work there in the car. Pretty cool. On Carl's Driven Life. Thank you so much, Emilio. We'll keep track of you and stay tuned for the next episode. Thanks, guys.
Awesome.